Welcome to the shortest banjo podcast ever, the COVID sessions, where everybody holds a banjo, and if they don't have one, they have to play air banjo. Raanan Hershberg's name always pops up as misspelled in my word processor. In spite of obstacles like this, Raanan has established himself as one of the premier New York comics. I'm happy that he has agreed to spend some time with us and share his comedy COVID story. Raanan Hershberg. Anyway, do your best, is what I say. All right, there's Raanan. How you doing, Raanan?
Good. Was that the intro theme song?
That was the intro. Raanan, thanks for being here. Where are you located today?
I'm in Tacoma, in Washington. I'm visiting my parents live here, and I'm visiting them and my nephews.
Well, you couldn't be as far away geographically unless you went to Hawaii.
Yeah, it's far,
Alaska.
but it's great here. It rains 27 hours a day, and it becomes night at 2 p.m. It's awesome. I'm doing great.
But you live in...
I live in New York. Ever fucking heard of it?
Yeah, the city's so nice they named it fucking New York.
Yeah. I live in New York.
That goes?
I don't know. I don't know what you're much older than me, so I might not get all your references. You have a lot of phrases that go.
That's true, Raanan. That's true. I am older than you. Raanan,
you look like a combination of Santa Claus, John Lennon, and The Big Lebowski, and Steve Martin.
That's what I'm going for.
And it was the banjo. Yeah,
banjo, Steve Martin.
You're like a combination of all of those four in one person.
Yeah. That's what I tell the barber when I go.
You are like Big Lebowski at the end of his life. No offense. I'm just saying the end of your life because you're old, by the way.
I understand that.
That wasn't a cancer joke.
Dude, I don't buy ripe bananas anymore, you know?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I love Big Lebowski. I don't think I've loved anything enough to go to a place where there's strangers who also like the same thing. But like, I do love Big Lebowski.
If you had a date, would you go?
If I had a date, if she wanted to go, how hot is she? What are we looking at?
We're about 8.
What are the chances of us sleeping together?
About an 8 and about a 50-50.
All right. Yeah, of course. 8. I'd go anywhere with it. I'd go to a neo-Nazi party with an 8. The neo-Nazis typically hate well, it's interesting because like I remember like I was trying to make a joke once on Twitter because like I don't think it came off, but the joke was something like there was someone in the gym not wearing a mask and I was the only one with the fucking balls to go up to an employee and tell on her, you know? And I thought that was kind of funny. Like, obviously I'm not telling, but a lot of shit doesn't read on Twitter. And a lot of people thought I was just being self-righteous. Like I was just saying, and bragging about it. And then I started getting attacked. And a lot of people, everyone was either anti-Semitic towards me or calling me a Nazi. On Twitter, I've never been called like a dirty Jew and a Nazi. That's the only place where I'm called both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, a lot of people think, COVID restrictions are like being like Nazis. It's like, yeah, because that's the one thing we all know about the Nazis, big proponents of health and safety. Mein Kampf was actually an exercise book. I don't know if you knew that. It was like an early fitness book.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like drink 8 cups of water a day and eat 3 salads and kill all the Jews. It took a weird turn by the third one.
Well, the thing that's just surprises me about what you said is that you go to a gym.
I know. You probably were still hanging off that suspension of disbelief. You're like,
it wasn't
like it's just not a believable premise for what you just said.
No,
it's not very believable. And I go to the gym, but I go to the elliptical. I like the elliptical because you don't have to stretch beforehand because it's not real exercise, and I like that aspect of it. You know. Mm-hmm. It's a real debate how much like is the elliptical like actually exercise, you know? Because I'll do it for like an hour and I think I'm like doing well on it, but then I'll look to the person next to me on the elliptical and they'll be like doing their taxes or like writing a novel, and you're like, hey, is this really that intense? If people can do like, is it really exercise if you can multitask?
I don't go to gyms.
No one thought you did.
No.
You didn't even. So I was doing comedy in New York, but I was like, I think I should leave because shit was getting bad. It was March and it felt, things were feeling weird. And then, but I didn't want to go. I was working at the Comedy Cellar. I think I got passed recently. So I liked, there you want to get in as much time. And I was like, I'll go once they close down places, And then there's one day I had done my last show at the Cellar. That was my last gig ever. And it was a weird gig because you felt weird being there. There was already the Twitter shaming where you're like, all like, if you go outside and talk to someone, you're worse than Hitler. There's already that fucking like shaming so quickly, right? And I was doing it, but I was at the Cellar, and I remember at that point, it was March, it was right before the lockdown. They were still doing shows, but there was limited capacity, and they had these microphones where you had to take your own microphone on stage and plug it in, right? And then you had to put a little like condom-y thing on it, you know what I mean? And and so I remember I was going on stage, and I remember I knew for a fact that shit was about to close down. We'd heard of it, so I was like, this is probably my last show for a while, for God knows how long. And I remember I got on stage and I did well. I remember like I wasn't trying new shit. I was just trying to have a good time, trying to really like get as many laughs as I could get to keep me warm through the winter or whatever. Yeah. And then I remember I got to my last joke and I'm like, all right, this is going to fucking crush. And then I'll feel good. I get to the last punchline. Right before the punchline, the fucking mic cord just falls out of my microphone because I didn't plug it in tight enough. Totally ruins the joke. I'm like, all right, that's the perfect ending. I get out of there, everything closes, and I decide to go to Phoenix to stay with my brother for indefinitely, Mm-hmm. And I went on a plane the next day, which was terrifying, which was really fucking, because first of all, I was scared, but also I was like, I hope it's going to be empty. And I wasn't wearing a mask. At this point, people weren't really wearing masks for the most part. Like I remember someone wearing a mask and I was like making fun of them. Like we've all forgotten this, but like, we've all collectively, but that's not true. We weren't wearing masks in the beginning, Like just a field trip of kids comes to the plane. Like a bunch of kids on a field trip coming back. Apparently they had been everywhere and they fill up the plane. They had been to they were from DC. They had gone to Baltimore. They'd gone to New York. I think they stopped in Wuhan for like a couple days. It was just like a giant petri dish. And they're all in the plane just coughing around me through the entire, I felt like I had become COVID. Like I didn't even get it. I'd like become it. It was insane. Finally, I get to Phoenix and somehow I didn't get sick, which was nice. If this would have happened today, I would have been like, I'm totally dead. You know what I mean? Stayed with my brother for 3 months, just watched his whole marriage fall apart. It was very awkward. But then the minute I left, they started getting along again. So I guess they worked out whatever the problem was. So
okay, are you left-handed? You're right. Okay, now start strumming. I
thought we're timing it. Aren't we timing it with your banjo?
You have to you just start playing and go blip blip ding 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 ding.
I'm just doing the ice cream truck song. This year's been a weird year for me. I did my first late night TV appearance in January,
which was
at the Late Late Show with James Corden. Mm-hmm. And this is my first TV appearance. And I mean, I'm like an old man already. It took me forever. So I was like, what did you say, 13, 14 years. Yeah. And so I did my first, and then I got passed by the Cellar. Yeah. And I did something on Comedy Central. So like my second TV appearance, and then the world shut down.
So, but you also had been doing theater work with Kathleen Madigan also,
yes,
which is cred,
That was great. Yeah. No, and I'm not complaining. Like, I'm very grateful that I got some things right before the world ended. It's a very, like a lot of people complain, like, God, I was just getting going and then everything put on pause. I'm like, better that than not having things going and everything being put on pause,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. The pandemic was awful, obviously. I mean, it's weird with the pandemic because there's what happened to the world, which is terrible. So much poverty, so much unnecessary death. It's just awful. It's hard to comprehend even to this day. Like, it's hard to fathom. Trump has made everything feel unreal. He has deprived anything of a sense of reality. So even like the tragedy of this feels unreal, but just how much unnecessary death there was. Mm-hmm. But the weird part is you have that, but then you have how it affects you personally, which isn't always so bad. So for me personally, it was kind of nice to take a break. I was doing comedy all the time. I didn't have a chance to think. I didn't have a chance to do other shit. So when the pandemic hit, that was the only way I was ever taking a break. I was doing comedy every night, and I had to take a break. I had to stop for like months, which is I've never done. If I did comedy, I wouldn't go 1 or 2 days without doing comedy. So it was a big thing, but it was nice to take a break. I got to like focus on other projects. I'm not saying I'm happy 1 million people have died so that I got the chance to diversify, but I'm just trying to look at the silver lining. Let's just say this. It took 1 million people to die for me to finally do a podcast. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. As Dickens said, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. But so I went to Phoenix, stayed there for 3 months, and I went to Alaska. So fortunately, I don't have anything going on in my life besides comedy. So once comedy's over, I can just fucking go wherever, like a leaf in the wind, Right. Which is nice, but also a little sad. It's like, wow, there's really nothing keeping me here, But so I went to Phoenix with my brother, and then I saw my sister and her kids in Alaska for a month, which was really cool. I saw a bunch of grizzly bears, Mm-hmm. I went to Alaska, and then I went to Tacoma to visit my parents, and my other sister who lives there with her fucking kid. I saw all the kids, and then I finally went back to New York, and they were doing outdoor comedy. And I did outdoor comedy everywhere. I did it on roofs. I did it in parks. And it was fucking awesome. Because I'm a loud comic. You know that.
Yeah.
So I fucking flourished. Because there's a lot of great comics. But outdoors, the loud ones are the best. Frankly, sometimes I'm a little too loud for indoors. So outdoors was like amazing. Like I just was always just fucking having a great set. It was... And there was no, it was freeing. It was like there was no industry. You're not worried. You're just having fun. I had a blast. You know what I mean? Which sad, everyone died, yada, yada, yada. But like, it was great. I did shows everywhere, outdoors, roofs, parks.
Set up in the subway and started telling jokes with your voice. You wouldn't even have to pause when the train comes in.
And I would get a lot of exposure, mostly to COVID. I mean, it kind of was like that. We were kind of doing street performing in the parks.
Yeah.
A lot of time, no one knows a show's happening, so it's kind of like street performing,
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of the people really hate you because boy, did you ruin a nice, calm park environment, But it was fun, man. You'd walk a couple squirrels. You doing pedophile jokes in front of a baby. It was fun. It was exciting. It was like a new movement. Yeah, I mean, I think on some level, every comedian, if anything, I think what comedy is on some level is finding jokes that are really funny when you say them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something about your voice, something about your delivery, something about how you look is the funniest when you're saying the joke.
Yeah, yeah. And you like, and then your heritage, because you play off your Muslim heritage a lot,
yes.
In your act
all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
So that's something
it's controversial because I'm Jewish.
Fun. I remember you did an outdoor show here years ago at a fair.
So I was used to it. Yeah, it was a fair, and there was like people were like 200 feet away on the bleachers, and I couldn't.
Yeah, you're on a semi trailer.
Yeah, I had to ask them if they liked a joke just to raise their hand. You know what I mean?
So couple people did, didn't they? Couple.
Yeah, I did okay. I got like 2 out of 12. It's not bad. Yeah, basically, I've done a bunch. I mean, I've done outdoor shows before. They're always like a weird gig that.
Yeah.
there's always a weird gig that you think is going to be the worst thing in the world, but then it turns out to be okay just because it's so weird. That was basically every show in New York for like a couple of months. So there's really wasn't much pressure, which was nice. You know what I mean? And it was liberating, and you couldn't really crush the same way because it's just like there's a limit to how well you can do because it's very the ceiling is the sky, so it's a very high ceiling, and and so that took away the pressure. You weren't worried like if the person you're never afraid to like be buried by the person before you. Right. It kind of took away the competition and just made it really relaxed. It was great. I loved it. Yeah, I miss it. I hope we still do them. I was I was kind of in the perfect place. Because I was making like a small living, but not like a huge living. Let's just say I was making a living where unemployment was a better living. So that it was quite, at first I was sad about it. I'm like, God, what does this say about me that I'm doing better on unemployment than I was doing comedy? But $600 a week is quite the unemployment. That's not how usually unemployment works. You know what I mean? Correct. That's a lot. Yeah. And I didn't make money that consistently. And so I had that, and then I had some gigs on the side too. So I've never done better in my life. I actually have. And now I'm like, I make a decent amount of money on Zoom gigs. Yeah. So now I'm like I've never done so well, which is another weird thing because like people are like homeless and unemployed. But like I personally have made out okay. I'm like the Jeff Bezos of stand-up comedy. You know what I mean? I mean, I haven't done great, but better than for once I have a savings account. You know what I mean?
That's nice.
There's nothing in it, but they let me open one.
Are there have any rooms gone away?
Yep. Dangerfield's closed for good.
Did it really? Mm-hmm.
Damn. Creek in the Cave closed for good.
I saw that. I hated that. That had become a good little place for the homeless.
There's a lot of clubs. I mean, it's very sad. A lot of clubs. I'm not as worried about, I feel worse for comedy club owners and comics because I feel like if you're a comic, you can still figure out how to do shit. You know what I mean? There's like Zoom, there's other opportunities, Right. I just think we have room to do different shit, Right. But if you're a comedy club owner, I feel really bad. I mean, most of them are dicks. So, but I still feel very bad for them because a lot of them are going to be screwed. A lot of them put their life into this, and it just sucks. I didn't really write much stand-up when I was in quarantine. I have trouble writing stand-up when I'm not doing it. I don't like the idea of writing a joke and then having to wait to perform it. You know what I mean? For me, writing is very connected to being able to do it on stage very quickly. So when I was in quarantine, I wrote a screenplay and I worked on short stories and other stuff, which I was excited to do. I don't like just doing stand-up. I like stand-up, but I find it limiting on a lot of levels. So I worked on that. And then when I was back doing comedy, I was kind of writing again. I mean, I wasn't putting the same pressure on myself, but I developed material. I think I tried to develop between the shit I had right before the pandemic and after the pandemic, I had like a new kind of 45 minutes I was working on that I was pretty excited about. And now I'm back to not doing stand-up, so I'm working on other shit. I got a solo show I'm doing on Zoom and
that's
a screenplay. So
that's what I'm talking about. I mean, your solo show's on Zoom. I mean, you got another one coming up Saturday. What's it called?
Raanan Billy.
Or on any social media in that regard. That has got to be a different feeling.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not great. It's not great. It's not terrible. It is what it is. I think it's been helpful for developing material. It's been helpful it's always helpful to just say the jokes over and over again. And you do see what jokes, like if a joke really works, you can see it and you do get laughs. But let's just say this. The high you get off of a set is very much dependent on the nervousness you feel before the set. You need the risk of bombing to really kind of feel that buzz of relief. The risk of bombing is not too big just because you're just sitting in a fucking computer. You know what I mean? You can't feel the bombing. So, no pleasure, no pain. So it's kind of like kind of a bit of no pain, no pleasure or whatever. It's kind of a bit of indifference kind of.
Yeah. It's no different.
You don't feel great or terrible afterwards.
it's no different than when you told the joke in your head when you thought it up.
It's better than that because you get laughs.
Yeah.
It's better than that, but it's somewhere halfway between doing it on stage and doing it in your bathroom to no one. Yeah. I'd say it's closer to doing it on stage just because people are listening and you are saying it. Yeah. But it's been good. I mean, for my solo show, I've done it twice or 1.5 times, and it's been actually really good to like go over it. And honestly, I wouldn't. Once again, the solo show, it was a lot to memorize. Mm-hmm. It's pretty long, and like I wouldn't have done that unless I had a date on the books. I need a date on the books. Mm-hmm. Having the only thing that really makes me write is like the pressure to perform it. You're still gonna have to wait a while. Probably till
we're gonna have to wait. Yeah,
but maybe by June. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, no, that's what I've been predicting. Middle of the year, I think every part about this vaccine has been faster than we thought. So we'll see. But that's because if we didn't have our dear Lord and Savior Donald Trump, he's the one that caused it. I mean, he pushed. He went up and told them hurry, and they,
I got a brilliant idea.
Of the dead comics, who did you like the most?
I really love Mitch Hedberg and Bill Hicks.
Bill Hicks.
Really love Bill Hicks. And then I think Doug Stanhope is really what got me into comedy, or got me into wanting to do it on stage. Doug Stanhope is to comedy what like Charles Bukowski is to writing. He makes it look really easy, and then you think you can do it, and then you have to spend the first 10 years exercising those demons from you, but like Stanhope, and I love Woody Allen and Steve Martin and Louis C.K. and Bill Burr and Kathleen Madigan and also it's Maria Bamford. The comics I love now working, I mean, I think like Sam Morril, Joe List, are really great. Mark Norman, who do I love? Lisa Traeger. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, there's so many great comics.
But it's an amazing. I'm talking to comics now because a lot of them are going to be watching this. It's an amazing place for stand-up comedy. I mean, it's there are. I remember just the first time walking into the comic strip and just feeling, son of a bitch. This is the comic strip,
The good thing about New York is there's just so many good comics that like you feel like you're constantly having to like do better. That pressure is pretty great, I don't think it's the only option. I think you can get good, anywhere. But I think New York is it's been good for me. It's amazing how much tighter your jokes get the more you're there.
This is a real question from an imaginary person that has been writing in every time. They seem to know who's going to be on the show, and they want to know this. So this is a question that all the comics have been getting asked that are on this series. If you had to assume an animal persona to do your stand-up for the rest of your career, what would that animal be?
What animal is like most, like what's my spirit animal, or what animals do you think would best reflect my material?
Well, or just you, and or how could you make, no, well, it didn't have to be your present material. It's just like, what would you want to assume?
I guess I'd have to think of the most Jewish animal.
Yeah.
I guess the most Jewish animal would probably be the possum. He's constantly playing dead. He's like just a coward and
anyway, so Raanan, thank you for spending time here on
this was great.
The shortest Banjo podcast ever, the COVID sessions. And and happy Hanukkah. And I know that, and I'll go modeling again. If you're ever in New York City and you see Raanan Hershberg, when you're trying to find a night out to go to a comedy club, you need to go see him or pick him up at a theater somewhere or a Zoom show, which I'm going to assume you're going to continue those even when the clubs are open.
Yeah, probably. I assume they're with us for a while. That wasn't really that maudlin. You were just like, go see Raanan if he does comedy.
I know.
I thought you were going to give a big sentimental speech. Or like, get really sentimental here.
I get all
check him out at clubs and colleges across the country.
I get all built up to it, then I look up and I see you, and I go, "What? Why
Well, thank you. I would have tried to get out of this, but you had cancer, so I felt obligated to say yes.
Well, that's part of it. Part of
I was
what
kind of hoping maybe you would have come back and I would get out of having to do this. But now that I've done it, I thought it was great. It was really fun. I was glad to talk to you. Really, it's been so long. No, I'm kidding. I'm so glad you're doing well, and it's great, man. We still need you. You know, you're.
That's good.
Keep on. Yeah. All right. Keep on. I don't know. I'm being stupid.
Keep on doing.
Keep on not getting cancer.
Keep on not getting cancer. I'll do it. Keep on not being not funny. Peace, Raanan.
Peace, buddy.